Congress isn't doing their job. You know, I don't want to say it's broken, because I've not been in Congress, so I can't say hey, it's broken. If I've not been there, how can I say it's broken? I believe it might be, or close. But that's the whole thing. We're a republic. We're not a democracy. We're a republic. The difference is we elect people to represent us. Okay, and so we need to hold those people accountable. If they're not doing their job, then they need to do something else.
I always think that the president has been too lenient to them because they are not doing their job. They are just they are not going to the rules or to the approval of something and they start to take campaigns over like government.
Yes, ma'am. But it's not just the president. It's before the president. It's whoever elects those people, including the president. You got to hold them accountable. Right now, there's not a lot of excuses. We've got to deal with the debt. If we don't deal with this debt, and the deficit spending keeps rising, we've got nowhere to go. We've got nowhere to go. I'm not here to vilify the president, the Congress. I'm just pointing out really where we're at. Foreign countries. But right now, China owns most of our debt. A foreign country with a very big military that we've kind of gone up against in Korea. You know, and so again, I'm not here to scare anybody, but I would say this: they own most of our debt. Things don't go the way they like it to go. Guess what? They say, you know, you need to pay us right now. Now what happens? So we've got to pay attention. We've got to quit spending what we don't have, like all of us had to do. I mean, I own a couple of companies. If I spent the way the government does, or it was as really irresponsible as the government is, my partner would put me in a straitjacket, or I'd be thrown in jail. You can't do the things the government does in the real world. So we've got to hold those people accountable. We've got to pay attention to our debt. We've got to stop spending what we don't have. You know, a lot's been said about we're spending our children's future, their fortune. Well, I guess we are. It's not fair. But just importantly, you know, we're talking about things here that we need to pay attention to. There's no excuse for that. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What, could you explain more about what the debt ceiling is?
The actual, well, there's a ceiling that they're not going to spend above. Okay, that's been increased twice already, past 2 years. Twice. And they're talking about increasing the debt ceiling, what they're legally allowed to spend, what that spend limit is.
So that puts us more in debt if they increase the debt.
Yes, yes. And that's not a good solution. Why not just stop spending what we don't have? Why just focusing on this debt that we have to pay off right now? The debt's almost $16 trillion. It's a lot of money. I can't count that high. Somebody said, Garrett, yesterday, the woman said if we could count to $1 trillion, how long would that take?
I remember it's a long, long time.
Yeah, just if you remembered every number, I could, and started with one and counted to $1 trillion, it would take years, is what she said. Years. So that's crazy. I mean, it can't be theoretical anymore. The money isn't there. If we don't have it, we shouldn't spend it. The people who owe or who own our debt, they may not be our friends. And so, you know, again, I don't believe in scare tactics, but the reality is when the Chinese government owns most of our debt, and they decide that they want us to pay their debt, pay that debt back to them, we don't have the money to pay them. Now what? Now what do? Puts us in a pickle. Sometimes you go to war. And I'm not trying to say that that's what we're going to do. But again, look at World War II. You know, the Japanese government was on a roll for resources and everything else. They did some things we didn't agree with and the other countries didn't agree with. Well, we stopped those resources. We stopped them from taking over countries to get those resources. We didn't like that. Well, we went to war. So, and I'm telling you, as a combat vet, I don't think war is a solution. But certainly when somebody owns that much of your debt, it could be problematic, especially if it's a competing country like China. Okay.
But is the government seriously consider not continue making business with China, sending all the things to China?
Yeah, that's a problem. Well, now you're getting the tariff restrictions and stuff like that. I don't know all the intricacies of the laws say you can or can't do law business with China. I mean, you don't want to restrict trade, but conversely, we've got to be realistic. We've got to be realistic. I mean, they're buying our debt. It's not the trade thing that we're talking about. They're actually buying, what we have to sell away debt.
Well, they're sending things to that, so we made that, and we can make it here.
Well, that's the other thing. Yes, ma'am. And briefly, we'll touch on this. Social Security's come up quite a bit, Medicare, Medicaid. But let's just talk about Social Security real briefly. Those people that are on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid right now, you're going to stay on it. Anybody that tells you differently is probably lying to you. Okay, that's not on the table to take away when you talk about this entitlement form. You've earned those benefits. Okay. I think the guys my age and younger, that's the honest conversation. When Social Security was enacted in 1940, there were 4 workers for every one that received the benefit. It made sense, okay? But what happened is when the baby boomers entered the workforce, they grew, which was a good thing. The workforce grew, but what happened is you had more people retiring at a younger age. The average age of a male, which most people were male workers, when Social Security was enacted in 1940, they retired at 68. They didn't live 10 years. Okay, so there wasn't that much to take away from the system that paid them after they retired. Now the retirement age got dropped down to 62, early retirement 65, but there's 3 people for every one person that takes benefits. So it's reduced by 25%. Inflation has gone up. People are living longer. Cost of health care has gone up. So it's problematic. The cost has actually gone up and the people put in is smaller. But the current trend right now is this. The next 20, 25 years will be 2 people for every 1 person who receives a benefit. It's not sustainable. Again, for the seniors that are on it right now, it's not going to be taken away. I don't see anybody has that proposal. And I've heard that this group wants to go to that group. I've not heard any of that. And my position is this. The folks that are receiving benefits, they've earned it, they're not going to be touched. But again, the honest conversation has to be with those younger folks that, they may have a savings plan, some sort of 401k, but the traditional Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid that's being paid for 3 and 4 for every person that receives benefits, it's not there. The only option I see is this. We have to grow the economy, like we did after World War II. The economy expanded. Okay, you had a lot of pent-up demand for those goods and services that weren't being purchased because of the war. They retooled, the economy expanded. But now the question is, how do you make that happen? That's a big question we have to deal with. And we can go into that for hours. I don't want to do that. But I just want to get this clear right now. My position, the position of many other people I've spoken with, seniors are receiving benefits right now. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, those aren't going to be touched. The problem is for these young kids out here. You figure out how they get benefits or not. And we have to deal with that. But that is a serious problem. I mean, again, probably your grandkids, but the student loan thing, the debt's about $1 trillion. Student loans are about $1 trillion. And that was problematic because the government got involved in there. Artificially low interest rates that made these loans look attractive. These kids took out these loans. Guess what? There's no place for them to work now. What do they default? So our deficit is $1.5 trillion right now, but not counting that $1.5 trillion, student loans are $1 trillion. 2/3 of what our deficit spending is, student loans would account for 2/3 of what our deficit spending is. So if that thing blows up, like the housing market did, we're going to have a problem. So that needs to be addressed as well. But anyway, it goes back to leadership. It goes back to identifying these problems. You come up with a plan, not blaming people. He did this, she did that, the Republicans did this, Democrats did that. Forget all that business. Because we're all in this thing together. So we have to come up with viable plans. It can't even involve scare tactics, just facts, figures, and path forward. So I know most of you don't have student loans, so we'll not talk too much about that.